All right, and news for the run. Let's get into it. Starting off with the MLB here because the World Series is going down right now, probably as we speak, depending on when you are listening to this. But as you know, it's the Dodgers versus the Yankees in the World Series, and the Dodgers, they currently have a 2-0 lead over the Yankees. So New York will look to try and show some type of fight as they play Game 3 tonight. Game 3 is taking place in New York. So this is a good thing for them. And hopefully they can make this a good series for the MLB, man. So far, it's been all Dodgers. They won the first game 6-3. They won the second game 4-2. And mind you, they did what they're supposed to do. They're at home. They're supposed to protect, home field and take advantage of being at home in front of the home fans. So now they're going to New York, and let's see what the Yankees can do here in this Game 3. Hoping for a good series, but above all, I think the Dodgers probably going to end up taking it. I never really gave a prediction, so this is not me giving a bold prediction. Obviously, Dodgers are up 2-0, so it wouldn't even make sense to give a fair prediction, but I think the Dodgers are going to take it. But anyway, look, let's go to La Liga action in soccer. So La Liga, we had the El Clasico. This was this past Saturday between Real Madrid and Barcelona put belt to ass. Oh man, it was bad. They won 4-0, and Lewandowski, he scored 2 goals. Yamal, he had scored a goal. Rafinha, he scored a goal as well, and that totaled up to the 4 points there for Barcelona. And man, that was rough. That was rough. I like Real Madrid, so this was like the one year I didn't really talk a lot of trash about Real Madrid winning, but I kind of knew it was going to be a little bit different. Them getting Mbappe, adding them to the mix. A lot of people thought it was going to be hype, like, oh, they're unbeatable now. But it does change the dynamic when you add another star, another stud in the lineup, because Vinny's already a huge star on there, and still got Ronaldo who's there, or Rodrigo, Rodrigo who's there. You got a lot of guys on that team, and when you add someone like Mbappe, who's a huge name, it changes the dynamic. And you still got Endricks, who's a young talent as well for Real Madrid. So you got a lot of guys on there who are talented, but I don't think they found the groove yet. I don't think they found it yet. But I will say, I seen a statistic, and it did make me smile a little bit after watching this. It was they were saying last time Real Madrid lost El Clasico, and you will have to fact check this. I don't want you to go based on my word. This is just something I heard. I didn't even fact check it, but I'm just vibing with y'all, so I'm talking. But last time Real Madrid lost to Barcelona, Real Madrid ended up winning the Champions League. So, I mean, hopefully that's something that can happen again. I would love for that to be the case. I know last year was a little rough, but they ended up taking on some awards themselves. So anyway, look, man, let's move to college football, because this is a crazy day for college football. Also in the NCAA, just to recap a couple different scores. Oregon, they beat U of I. U of I was ranked number 20, and Oregon was ranked number 1. They won 38-9. Penn State, they won their Big Ten matchup 28-13 over Wisconsin. Ohio State was in a duel with Nebraska, who's also a Big Ten matchup, but they ended up winning the game 21-17. Texas, Vanderbilt almost had them. They almost upset another top 5 team. But Texas ended up taking care of business. They won 27-24. Miami, they smacked up Florida State, and they won 36-14, as a matter of fact. And then Alabama, or Texas A&M versus LSU, actually. This was another ranked matchup. Texas A&M ended up winning this game 38-23. It was a nice matchup until the second half. Second half, Texas A&M really just ran with it, man. They had 17 points in the fourth quarter, and they only held LSU to scoring 6 points total in that second half. So it was a solid game. But Alabama, they played Missouri. They smacked up Missouri 34-0. And then just to give y'all the new rankings too. So last week actually, we seen a couple different teams in different locations, but now we have a reorganized top 5. So last week, I'll just read it off. Last week, we had Oregon at number 1, Georgia at number 2, Penn State was at number 3, Ohio State at number 4, Georgia at number 5. This week, things are somewhat similar, but we got a new team that enters the top 5. Oregon's at number 1, Georgia at number 2, Penn State at number 3, Ohio State at number 4, and University of Miami is now top 5 as they filled that number 5 slot. And there's a couple other teams who are still trying to fight for that position, but Texas is at number 6, Tennessee number 7, Alabama moved back to 14. They actually moved up a little bit. And now you got Colorado with Coach Prime. They've entered the top 25 as they're sitting at number 23. They have a 6-2 record. So some of these teams, hey, they're creeping up. And you got to remember, this is the 12-team format now. So it's not just the top 4 teams. The top 12 teams make it to the playoffs, but the top 4 have a rest within the first 2 rounds or first round. Again, another area you got to fact check that, but the top 4 teams definitely get the privilege of having some sort of rest ahead of the playoffs. So definitely want to be top 4, but that was dope. Anyway, look, NFL scores here just to fill you guys in. So Thursday night football, we seen the Rams and the Vikings. The Rams ended up winning that game 30-20. The Eagles, they beat the Bengals 37-17. Browns, as you know, they beat the Baltimore Ravens. Lions smacked up the Titans like big bullies that they are. The Patriots, they beat the Jets. The Jets are now on a 5-game losing streak. And let me actually fact check that for you right now. Yes, a 5-game losing streak for the New York Jets. They lost to the Broncos, Vikings, Bills, Steelers, and just the Patriots, who are an awful team so far this year. But the Jets season, done. I'm not even about to go into detail about that. Anyway, the Packers, they beat the Jaguars. The Colts, they ended up falling short to the Houston Texans. The Chargers, they beat the Saints. Bills beat the Seahawks. Chiefs beat the Raiders. And the Commanders beat the Chicago Bears in a crazy, crazy matchup. It was a Hail Mary that ultimately led to the Commanders winning. It was Jaden Daniels versus Caleb Williams, and Jaden Daniels ended up pulling off the win. The Cowboys, they lost to the 49ers in prime time, which was just wild. And, you know, my team here, the Atlanta Falcons, you know, they ended up having to get that win against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. How they do. They won that game 31-26. And I loved what I seen on some parts, but other sides, I didn't really love it. So let's break it down a little bit. As we see, you know, the Falcons, they ended up winning 31-26 here. And, you know, this is a rivalry game in the division, of course. This is a big-time matchup. Buccaneers, they wore their creamsicle uniforms and stuff. They was really trying to stun on Atlanta. But the Falcons, they got Kirk Cousins, the man who walks in your trap and take over your trap. This is what he said. He was saying it before the game, and they were saying it after the game because they walked in the trap and took over the trap. However, we know Buccaneers didn't really have many weapons. They obviously was missing Mike Evans and then Godwin as well. Those two guys being out of the offense will really tear it apart. The struggle here for the Falcons, and the part that makes me somewhat upset about this win, is the fact that the game was so close despite the Buccaneers being down 2 star receivers. That is the part that really made me upset. That was the part that just rubbed me the wrong way, because thankfully the offense for the Atlanta Falcons actually clicked, and thankfully they actually looked decent in this game and looked consistent in this game. We seen Kyle Pitts finally get involved. He had him some great receptions, had 2 touchdowns. One of them could have been a bonehead mistake, and it actually, realistically, it was a fumble in the end zone. Let's call it for what it was. That's exactly what it was. It was a fumble in the end zone. It was a stupid mistake, but thankfully they were okay, and the rest was just happened to be on the side of the Falcons. Wild. And then Bijan Robinson played a great game, had 63 rushing yards, 13 carries. Couldn't really find a touchdown, but definitely had some good runs that helped the Falcons out. I'm proud of the Atlanta Falcons offense. Watching this game, I'm content with what I seen from the Falcons offense. They produced. They made things happen. They scored points, which is what we've been asking for the whole season. We've been wanting them to score consistently. The issue was the defense. The defense couldn't get a stop for nothing. They couldn't stop an ant from walking across the piece of the sidewalk. It was bad, bro. It was bad. They ran all over us. It's just the consistency. Obviously, we see the turnovers that the Falcons had in this game, You had the dope interception from Jesse Bates, and you also had the fumble from Jesse Bates, 2 turnovers that Jesse Bates forced, but they just don't tell the whole story. When you look at these things and you say, okay, well, Falcons defense is doing good. They forcing turnovers and, that equates to getting stops. Yes, I get what you mean there, but there's deeper context to the issues that's going on with the Falcons defense. The issues is that we can't stop a run game for nothing. The other issue is that we play over top every single play, that everybody is just picking us apart from underneath, whether it's short passes in the middle, swing passes to the flats, all of those things, and teams can get really, really creative, and ultimately we're just giving up more and more and more yardage until a team gets to the red zone and they're able to kick a field goal. This is where we need to get stops. Allowing other teams to score points is not going to help us win games when the whole objective for your defense is to stop teams from scoring points. Like that's not beneficial at all. So in the beginning half of the season, it was Zach Robinson. We were like, okay, offensive coordinator, hey, we need you to tighten up. We need you to make some things happen, score the ball, score some points on the board. The defense was the solid piece. They were holding the Falcons together. And now it seems like the tide has turned just a little bit where the Falcons defensive coordinator, Jimmy Lake, just can't get it done at all. Thankfully, the Falcons is winning because the offense is rolling a little bit now. But, above all, if this team is really going to be a playoff contender and beat teams in the playoffs, beat teams at full strength when they're healthy, they're going to need to be able to play defense and not just rely on those fumbles and interceptions and rely on the other team's mistakes. You can't do that. You got to force them into mistakes. And right now, I haven't seen that from the Falcons defense. So I'm happy with what I've seen in this game. I'm happy they won. They're 5-3. They're undefeated in the division. They swept the division. They still got to play the Saints, I think, in a couple weeks. But next week, they got the Cowboys. And this matchup against the Cowboys, it's at home. So far, whenever the Falcons have played at home, it hasn't been beautiful. They haven't really impressed the home crowd with some great plays on both sides of the ball. And I'm hoping this is the change that we'll finally see the Falcons have that adjustment where they're playing great at home on both sides of the ball, meaning offense and defense. I would love to see if Kyle Pitts could still get involved in the offense, if Bijan Robinson still had himself a day. And I would love to see if Drake London was able to have a comeback game because they didn't really feed him the ball last game against Tampa Bay. He didn't really touch the rock. He wasn't getting fed at all. And that's going to be something that needs to change because when the Cowboys come to town, it's really hit or miss, but just best believe everybody's going to be watching the game and everybody's going to have an opinion on that game. So last week, must-win situation. You want to extend that positive record, be 5-3 instead of 4-4. But this game against the Cowboys is also just as important because it's going to be a test of that legitimacy. How good are the Atlanta Falcons? Everybody else is beat down on the Cowboys. Can the Atlanta Falcons do that? These are going to be some of the questions that you're wondering. So I'm hoping they come out with it, man. Hopefully it's all good. And I'm happy Kirk Cousins did his thing. But above all, it's just the inconsistency within the defense, man. They got to get it together. They got to get it together, man. We need both sides to click in order for things to really go well. And in order for teams to actually win, for this team to actually win, and for other teams to actually be somewhat worried about coming into Atlanta and playing the Atlanta Falcons. Other than that, look, man, hey, leave a quick take on our voicemail line. You got something to say, you want to go ahead and get something off your chest, 219-413-9405. Of course, we'll play your take back on our next episode. Also, use the promo code, get $20 off your first ticket purchase when you use the promo code, The Run Podcast for SeatGeek. This code can only be applied through the mobile app or the website for SeatGeek, and I'm going to go to some games, so I'm going to use the promo code, create me an account, all of that stuff. But other than that, man, I'm going to leave y'all with this positive note here. Hey, like I said about the Lions, they love you when you're down bad and you're coming up, but just remember, man, when you're up, just keep focusing on yourself because teams don't not like that you're so good. Same way, people might not like that you're so good. You're having so much success. The Lions is having a lot of success. And you see, I'm on here hating about them, and everybody else is about to start hating on them really, really soon. So I just want to say, focus on yourself. Don't worry about, what's being said about you, whether you're in the stages of grinding and get it done, or you in the stages of already being there and you're seeing some of the success that you've been wanting. So just keep that in mind. And I'll leave y'all with that. But other than that, look, man, I'll see y'all later on next week. Check out the episode 2 I had with our Falcons insider on the Falcoholic. He definitely is a cool dude. Kevin Knight, man, covers the Falcons, also has his podcast as well. But check out that episode, man. We were talking about that Seahawks matchup and then the preview of what was going to happen in this Tampa Bay Buccaneers game. But thankfully, Falcons won just as we was hoping for. But check that out. Anyway, look, man, we'll be back later on next week and later on this week, actually. And so on and so on and so on.